So when we sit, this feeling that the chin is being pushed down and in, which is tending to lengthen the neck and create this circuit inside the head. And we want the same sort of feeling in the sacral area, so the belly area, because they're the same really. The head goes this way, the belly goes this way. So when I put my thumb in my navel, it's as though my thumb is pushing up a little bit and back, which is encouraging this circuit, cutting under. So there's these two pressures, if you like, the chin down and in, and the belly or the navel just up and in, which is creating these two circuits. And so you've got the belly doing this, you've got the head doing this, so the chest can join either of those circuits. So the belly pulling in can create this, the navel pulling in can create this circuit, and it can also create this circuit in the chest, which then joins in the head. So the chest and the head just becomes one big circle, or the chin pulling in, which gets this circuit going, can actually branch down into the torso. So the heart area can go either way. So either the thymus can dominate or the eros, the lower heart, can dominate. So the figure of 8 is really just sort of two circles which are going opposite directions, one clockwise, one anti-clockwise, that have sort of come towards each other. And it's like as soon as they touch, it just whizzes around. So they want to sort of join, but they also want to separate. So there's this sort of in and out tension between the two circles of a figure of 8. They want to sort of split off, and like cell division, but they also want to combine. Okay, now let's just work on the bellies, just drawing it in. And then just getting into the reverse breathing. So just sucking the air in with this through the small hole as you pull the hands in. So, and then out. Just feel the two kidneys as you bring the air in and squeeze the front towards the back. They really swell. Okay, then just alternating. So like we're trying to do like a figure of 8 inside the waist, inside the belly. So obviously the hips can't move. Pulling in one side, pulling in the other. But as I pull in this side, it ends up by pushing this out, and then that side can pull in. Now let's just turn it into like rollback in the form. So just extending one side, pulling it in by really contracting here, and then really sort of just rocking into this sitting bone on this side and feeling the cross energy coming up from this sitting bone into this elbow. So as one side retreats and withdraws and comes into itself, the other side really opens up and expands. And then here. So we want to feel it all coming from this contraction in that side of the belly. So I pull one side. So we just want to appreciate that in order to give out energy, I have to have taken some in, otherwise I'm going to run out. So it's my withdrawing, my pulling here that enables this side to expand out of itself. And so all of this action in the belly is really pulling or pressing the Min Nang backwards. So it's all assisting the rotation of the sacrum. So now just feeling the return. So I draw in one side here, and it just, because there's like a natural sort of curve here, I just want to feel it just naturally going out again. You know, rather than me having to sort of just consciously change direction, going this way and then going this way. I just want to feel there being like this sort of curvature, this inner surface of the sacrum. So it's just drawing in and then just feeling that natural loop back. you know, when John got us working on the peripheral vision, then it became clear that as well as there being a peripheral vision around here, around like the circumference, each eye had its own inner peripheral vision, you know, like when you're looking at a close object. So it's like you're drawing the energy down the middle, and then it just loops out around this periphery. I just want my hand just to be just on the edge of my vision, really. I'm not looking at it, but I'm aware of it. Yeah, so this sense that when you look at something, you take it in. But when it reaches the peripheral vision, it's released again. So when you look at something, you capture it, but when you glance at something, you release it. So it's going from the central to the edge. Okay, so let's stand up and just try the same thing standing. Okay, so just bringing it in the middle. We want it to feel pretty much exactly the same. So it's not moving the hips, it's moving the waist, which moves the hips. So I'm pulling in, it's the belly working, I'm pulling in my belly. And it's like my hips sort of responsible for throwing it out. Something is being drawn into the middle and then being thrown out along this, like an outside track. So in here. Yeah, so it's what they call an internal movement rather than an external one. So it's stimulated by this internal, this contraction in my belly, which then moves the waist a little bit, the hips, and then they just spring back. Yeah, so the problem with standing still is that it does become a little bit statuesque and stuck and stiff. So the test really is, can you let it breathe? So just pulling yourself down and up again. So in the same way that we drew the belly in here to pull the hand in, want to feel, again, we're pulling the belly in to draw ourselves down. So this breathing is still coming from the action of the belly. So pulling the belly in as you breathe in, and then, so in the same way that we pull the belly in to suck the air in through the nostrils, here I'm pulling the belly in to suck the energy up from the ground, which draws my body down, and then pressing it up. So I just want to feel like my body just really wants to go down. It wants to pull me down, despite the pain and the discomfort. Yeah, it wants to sort of become one with the earth. So becoming humble, becoming of the ground. So humus, H-U-M-U-S, is just the Latin for ground. So humble just means of the ground. And John used to say it is very much like dropping a level, like that thing that Mark sent yesterday, the sort of dropping a rank, being demoted. So the energy is quite different when you're close to the ground than when you're up. Okay, now let's just come into riding horse, but just feel like there's this sort of breathing happening all the time. So it doesn't just become a stiff, stationary posture. It's really sort of throbbing, this slow throb from the ground. Like there's a heartbeat to the actual exercise. I mean, it's slower than your own heart. Belly withdrawing, so belly coming in. It is interesting when I if I get a student standing like this, I just come behind them, put my hand on their sacrum, then I just draw them back and just let them lean on my sacrum, lean on my hand with their sacrum. Then they always tell me, wow, my belly just comes in naturally. So that's the feeling, like you're sort of leaning on the wall, and then the belly can just comfortably go back onto the inside of the sacrum. So it's not tending to spill out all the time. And then the same with the other centers. This center is drawing in, and same with this one. You know, so this center is drawing in. You can get it to go this way, or you can get it to go the other way, but it's pulling towards the back. So this, you know, what we were doing earlier with this pulling in of the belly here, it's exactly the same here in the head. You can imagine, see it, you know, that as you tighten here, there's a sense that there's something tightening here as well, and pulling this central head point in and around the back. So like the back of the skull here is in like two bits like this, and you've got this figure of 8 going around inside the head, same as you've got this figure of 8 going on inside the hip girdle, inside the pelvis. So we just want a sense that we can get the energy moving without actually having to move that, the bigger body part. So I can get something going on in here by just getting a sort of wriggle going on inside my waist. And the same sense here, I can so John you have all these sort of contortion exercises for the face and the eyebrows and the forehead, to try and get a sense of something going around these circuits. Now let's just get the bigger one going. Now just forget that. I mean, it'll be there in the background, or at the center really. And then this is just seeing the bigger picture really, seeing the external. So we just want to try and not let the body move side to side too much, because that will tend to dissipate the energy. So it's very much the turn. Yes, as the mind traces this figure of 8, it's not like this. It's not like a smooth thing. It's like I pull in here, and then that throws this off, but then I have to pull in here. So I've got to jump, I've got to release. So I'm pulling in here, and then I just let it go. I let it travel around, because it will go naturally then. So I pull in here, and then it loops here, but then I've got to then pull in here. so that it's not just a smooth, even track. This is what we want to just try and feel. So again, it's that thing of the central vision capturing the object, and the glance, the peripheral vision, releasing it. So here, this is like my central vision that's drawing the thing in. And then I can just let it reach the outside, the periphery, and then I can let it go because I release it, like releasing the stone from the slingshot. So I pull in here and I release, and then I pull in here and I release. And it appears to be like a smooth figure of 8, but it's actually, it's quite a different mind that releases it to the mind that pulls it in. This is what we want to just try and appreciate. So letting your energy out is actually really quite difficult. It's like you have to allow yourself to be distracted. So here I'm holding, I'm capturing, and then it's almost like I have to sort of look over here, and then this will just release by itself. So I've got one mind with the drawing in, this sort of capturing, hungry mind, and then this other light mind that's just willing to just let it go, let it fire off. Yeah, and you can see that this is what we used to often do with John, especially in Blakeney. We'd work on something, like the sort of, like what we were doing when we were sitting down, and it would be really strong. And then, you get tired, the body gets tired. So he'll say, okay, let's forget that. And we'd do something that was like the opposite. And it was almost like we were just seeing how long it would take before it became what we were doing before. Because it's like the truth and the power, they just always want to come back in. So here I'm drawing. Yeah, so I've got one mind that's with the draw, but it's not this sort of mind too much, because I've got to release as well. Yeah, so this is especially evident in the form, because we have to consider the form as, like a machine that's just dredging energy up from the ground and dispersing it into the world. So rather than it just being this heavy body that's just going through these motions, it should be firing stuff off all the time. So the body has to have a degree of openness and lightness, otherwise the energy just won't come up. It'll just come through the arch of the legs rather than into the upper body. So no matter how much I contract here, there comes a point where it has to spring open again. And I want to feel just that difference in the mind between this sort of, it's like a serious, this is the gravity, and then this is the levity, this is the laughter. And so the mind, the quiet mind, the mind that stays on the job, is not a heavy mind. It's always drifting, wandering, disappearing, and we're always pulling it back. And so that's the machine, really. You've just got to be endlessly patient in bringing it back. But it has to have that sort of, that vibrancy between, you know, the possibility of straying. If it's too rigid, then it's just not right, and you can tell. So let's bring it back to riding horse. So in one sense, on one level, this is like a circle. But in another level, it's very much a figure of 8 with 2 shoulders, 2 shoulder blades, each one the back of the circle of that figure of 8, of that part of the figure of 8. And then the same with the head, you've got the 2 parts here, and then the same with the hips. So as soon as it splits into 2, movement can come in. So this is what we want. It's externally still, but internally moving. Okay, now let's just bring in the figure of 8. So basically what this does, it turns the figure of 8 up so that it's on the vertical. So this is the sacral circuit, if you like, and then this is the head circuit. So coming over the head, but under the sacrum. Yeah, so really we just have two centers really. We have the belly, the dantian, and we have the head, and they're like opposites. So this is heavy, this is light, this is watery, this is fiery. And the circuit goes this way here and this way here. And then the heart is just like, should be like the perfect balance, the perfect mixture of those two. And so the heart is like the overlap or the intersection of the belly and the head. And then our job is just to keep them in balance. Whatever dies was not mixed equally. Yeah, so when this is right, then the head is released upwards. So when I'm heavy in the right way here, it releases the neck. But similarly, when I just pull my chin in to adjust my head and my neck, I should feel a release in the lower back. So like the sacrum is allowed to drop down. So that's how you know that it's right. If you overdo it, if I overdo the heaviness here, it'll bring the head down. And if I overdo the lightness here, which is what we tend to do, because we get carried away with ourselves, then we lose our root. You know, so they should really help each other if you get them right. So it is very much, you can't really have one without the other. And then that's the sort of the lightness in the system, just the play between the component parts. Now let's just feel the heart area. So it's like the lower heart. Just want to feel that sort of joining up with the solar plexus, and the upper heart just joining with the throat area. So I've got a student who's an acupuncturist, and he was telling me that originally in Chinese medicine, they didn't have a heart. They didn't have a heart center. It was the pericardium, the protective coating of the heart, but there wasn't a heart meridian. So what they tended to do was, you know, when they decided there were 5 elements instead of 4, then they had to introduce an extra all over. So, you know, the extra element became metal, I presume. and the extra meridian became the heart. Yeah, so this it's not really just a one thing. It's very much a composite, a balanced composite. Now let's just squat down. Just feeling the lower back lengthening as the sacrum tries to come under, but also spreading across from one side of the pelvis to the other. And then the same feeling in the head. So as the sacrum is sort of pulled under by the squat, you want the same feeling in the head, like the neck is lengthened and the head is trying to sort of come over. The first day of Pesach today, so although you probably can't hear it because Zoom is pretty good at filtering out noise, there's a lot of religious people downstairs chanting. And then just placing the hands. And just, with like a judicious use of the legs, just pressing it into the hands to get that sense of the ground's energy coming up into you. Coming up the arms and into the middle of the back and up into the skull, particularly. And you can just come off the heels. So the arms are filling up with strength and becoming legs, and the legs are coming off the heels and becoming light like arms. And then I can just rock back, just slowly feeling the legs becoming legs again, and the arms becoming arms. And then just rocking forward. So just getting this like a breathing action. So the movement is just continuous. So you're sinking into the arms. And then this sense that you sort of spring back, it's easy to feel it in the arms. And then as I sink into the heels, I just want to feel the trampoline of the heel. So I get sprung back from the feet as well. So sinking into the arms. And then just feel the return, the energy returning now it tends to get stuck in the legs. So this is what we want to feel, is that the energy wanting to come up the legs and bring me out of them. And then into the arms. So the legs are breathing. This is why I think walking is such a good exercise, because they're really alternating the legs. They're taking the weight, they're giving up the weight rhythmically. So a real sense that, similar to the arms, this round shape is just the space for the other, with a big hug. This round shape here in your legs is the space for the ground. So a sense that the ground is actually sucking up into here. Same way that I want this to feel a little bit like a vacuum that's drawing the other person in. So all the time I'm drawing myself down. I'm not just stopping. The same way that all the time I'm inviting the other person in. And then you've got this figure of 8 here. So this, the pull in at the center, and then you've got the figure of 8 here as well. So this sense that something is being drawn up into your groin. So down the outside and up the inside. Down the outside and up or in the inside. Now let's just try just a little bit of that pushing backwards and forwards again, because it's really important. Using the full leg to push yourself out, and then just really feeling the other leg filling up. Yeah, so basically, we just go backwards and forwards and just really just try and look at it. And just the repetition will slowly intensify it Because what I want to feel, remember, is as I come into the front foot not just holding me here, but driving up through my body into the opposite arm. Yeah, so I can't come too much over the foot because then everything just collapses into it. I don't have this openness here. So I'm coming forwards, and this is sort of driving me back. It's keeping this more in the middle, so I can't get this over the front foot. So I'm coming here, and it's, so this leg is pushing this forwards and over here, and this leg is trying to keep it back, and that I can just bring it up into the hand. Yeah, and you can just do a whole form like this. It gets very intense. This feeling that the legs are drawing everything up the inside, and then the arms are distributing everything on the outside. So like you've got the central vision in your legs, and you've got the peripheral glancing vision, the releasing vision in your upper body. Yeah, so when we do like a push in the form, when we come into push or when we come into punch, when you get it right, it almost feels like the arm doesn't sort of belong to you. It's sort of off at the side somewhere. Coming forward, and this leg is distributing into this side. But it's up this inside, down this outside from the shoulders. Yes, all the time the heavy sacrum is like the lid on the cooker, the lid on the pressure cooker. It keeps everything under pressure so that something can happen, so that the energy can actually come up. Let's try the other side. So it feels quite wide. You feel wide here, but you especially feel wide in the shoulders. So this hand feels a lot further out here than normal. And same this hand, it's a lot further out here. Just to get that, the back of the figure of 8 really. I'm pushing my weight forwards with my back leg, and then my front leg is countering that, and I'm letting that countering energy come up into the upper body. Yeah, so as it builds up, as you repeat it, we're getting energy because the two legs are fighting, if you like. But what I'd like to get is the feeling that it's actually just the one leg, but the two sides. So my hamstring is pulling me down into the leg, and my quad is trying to straighten through that. Yeah, then it's just a little bit more intense, a little bit more active. So the pull here is also in the hamstring. Yes, it's like the drawing muscle. I just want to feel it all through the body, not just in the belly. So here, this is tightening, and then this is really having to work hard to straighten through that. And then I want that not just to be something that's holding me still, but something that can extend into the other side. Yeah, so this is difficult, but it's just like the next level up really in intensity. So in order to draw and contract, it first has to really open up. So this side has to really open. My toes, my fingers, everything is sort of straightening. And then it's got a bit of range. So pull. I pull the belly in, but I also pull the hamstring. And you can just put your hand there, just make sure that it is actually tightening. Because it's difficult to activate the hamstrings. Just takes, it's quite a different mind. You're just getting your ruthlessness to sort of extend down into the legs. So the legs become really active in a sort of drawing way rather than just a pushing out way. So they call them the leg biceps, don't they? Because they basically just do the equivalent of this muscle in the arm. And if you really want to activate it, then just bring the heel off the ground just a little bit. So this whole leg is tightening and bending, and then through the core of that extends this stream of straightening energy. Let's just bring it back. So yeah, let's just go down and so just feel the ground and then back up again. Really extend the posture. Letting the hands earth, but without the weight coming into them, and then just back up again. Yeah, so I go down by drawing in here, but it's like every part of me that contracts, yeah, so that these muscles, yeah. So it's coming from my belly. So the belly is the sort of physical center, the body center, and the head should be like the spiritual center. I mean, it's not anymore because we think, and that's ruined everything. And so the earth, the gravity of the earth draws my body, which is centered here. And the vacuum of space, the lightness of space, of the sky, the heavens, draws my spirit, which is centered here. So your belly belongs to the earth, and your head belongs to God, or to the Great Spirit, however you want to think of it. The sky is good enough. And then just drawing it up. Feeling the belly. And then just tightening here. Straightening the legs, but letting this drop down. So this is pulling in. And there's a sense that the upper back is just leaning back a little bit. So very much that your sacrum is beneath this point. It's beneath the head point. And then your heart is just the ideal combination of body and spirit, or body and mind. There's the sense that this is doing its own thing. This is doing its own thing. And then I can just be here. Yeah, so very much that, when you're in your being, when you're present and in your being, then you have a natural regulating, equilibrating, balancing effect. Your presence brings harmony to both yourself and to your world. Like with Thai, she lacks confidence. It's, oh, I won't be able to manage such and such a situation. And I said, well, look, simply by being there in it, you are managing it, and it'll be okay. So this is what, children have to learn, that they have inherently good energy, and that the world will work for them if they can just be present and happy being present rather than anxious. So anxiety is always the enemy. It's like a lesson we have to just relearn it every day, really. Yeah, so what is it that's present when you're present? Yeah. It's your heart. It's your perfect combination of mind and body.